Bnai Israel. First of all, the portion opens up by saying Parashah. The writer says, behold. Well, I'm from down south. I want to say, look at here. Right. Look at here. So if you want to join me on page 799, I want you to look at here. I want you to look. I want you to see. But that means that I want you to also understand. Because if there is no understanding in what you see when you look, what good has it done you? It has done you very little good. The Eternal says in the 11th chapter and the 26th verse, please read with me because I want this to sink into you. And I believe when we read together, when each individual pronounces those words for himself and for herself, I pray that they are more effective. Please read with me 11 and 26. Behold, I set before you this day a blessing and a curse. The blessing, if ye shall hearken unto the commandments of the Lord your God, which I command you this day, and the curse, if ye shall not hearken unto the commandments of the Lord your God, to turn aside out of the way, which I command you this day, to go after other gods, which ye have not known. So wait, there are other gods. Yeah, that's all. There are other gods. I don't want to tell you about the little young guy that was on YouTube this week. His father's a leader in the clan in one of the southern states. And it says that the little boy was in the operating room. And he died for 3 minutes and they revived him. And during these 3 minutes, the little boy said he experienced heaven. And he said, oh, Daddy, Jesus is in him. And his daddy said, that's impossible. That is again. That's absolutely, he said, yes. He said, there's 1 or 2 of us up there, but everybody else was also in him. What we gonna do, Dad? Dad said that the medication that his son was on really messed him up, and he needs some medicine to help him over his particular trauma that he experienced while he was on that 3-minute hiatus of a book. So I really found that extremely interesting. I found it interesting because looking at this portion and getting the idea that people will find things to worship. And people will make idols for themselves. Sometimes the idol can be your job. Sometimes the idol can be a loved one. Well, Rabbi, shouldn't I love my wife? Shouldn't I love my husband? Shouldn't I love my children? And the answer to that question is absolutely and unequivocally yes. But love does not mean worship. It really does not mean worship. Love means to respect, it means to nurture, to care for, to tend to. But it does not mean to worship. We are told, as we were told last week and the week before, that we should love the eternal our God. And him only should we serve. With what? With all of our heart, with all of our soul, and with all of our might. So he says, I don't want you to go you have not known, which you have not been introduced to. So now, as we are in this way of life, don't look around for how many more. Sometimes in certain situations and circumstances, you will have to stand by yourself. But in standing by yourself, never forget that the eternal is standing with you. That you are not alone. And that's the feeling we have to learn to get over. How do we bring up the God in us? So that when we are standing in that place where we seem to be the only one of this faith, how do we stand on that? How do we stand with that? Particularly when others are very discouraging and disparaging of you and saying that, oh no, that can't be. That this is the only way. That we have all of these things and see all of us. How can all of us be so wrong and just a few of you be so right? We also have to understand that God's Torah is not a democracy. It is a theocracy. Where the eternal is supposed to be our head. So we don't vote on God's law. Should we keep the Shabbat? It's not going to be on any ballot. Do we have to eat according to this law? Not going to be on any ballot. Because we're going to get the dietary laws again today. Now those are some religious leaders in our community, and they will say that they don't believe in religion through the stomach. Well, this is not about religion through the stomach. This is about obedience to the Word of God. It is about obedience to the Word of God because we say that we love Hashem. And therefore, in our love, one of those expressions is in the manner in which we eat. That eating is an expression of love to Hashem. So it's not about getting into, I don't believe in the religion of the stomach, where you can eat whatever you want to eat. Because we're also told today that we should not add to it, and that we should not take away from it. So I understand that. To mean that we don't have to add other superficial days. I know why it was done many, many years ago. But now that we have a correct calendar, we can observe what the Torah tells us. 6 days shall work be done, the 7th day is the Shabbat unto the Lord thy God. Then he says, I'm going to give you 3 festivals. One festival is supposed to be for your freedom. Passover is the feast of liberation. Certainly, our minds were to be liberated. Because if you don't have a liberated mind, a liberated body doesn't mean anything. That's why Carter G. Woodson, in his book, The Miseducation of the Negro, if you train a person to go in a particular way all the time, and that way is only the back door, and when he gets to the back and he doesn't see a door, he's not going to go back around to the front door to go in. He's going to build a back door in the back. Because that's what he's used to. And then you pretend to believe and think then that the things that others have are things that you can't achieve. That those things are beyond each of us. These 2 hills happen to be form a valley in which they pass through, where in fact the blessings and the curses were pronounced. But more importantly, The 32nd verse says, you shall observe to do all the statutes and the ordinances which I set before you this day. And the 12th chapter now is going to enumerate for us those statutes and those ordinances which we are supposed to observe. Now, it says in the land. So some of these statutes and ordinances are directly related to the land of promise. They are related to the land of promise. Others, statutes and commandments, can be done anywhere, like here in America. Because I have heard some teach that you can only keep the Sabbath in the Holy Land. Because it says, I'm going to give you these laws when you go into the land. So it's a misappropriation of the understanding of the Torah. And oftentimes in life, the Torah is misappropriated in how people want to see it, perceive it, and understand it. This is what I want you to observe in the land, which I gave to your fathers, and have given you to possess it all the days that you were on the earth, that you should destroy those places in the land that were not dedicated to God, but they were dedicated to other gods. So that doesn't mean that in this land we have any obligation not to respect any other faith community. And never let any other faith community disrespect you. To maintain that sense of your self-understanding and your self-respect. Because if you give that up, you will certainly lose everything. We are told that you shall not do after their doings. And sometimes that becomes difficult for us, it seems. Because if everybody else is doing it, Mama, why can't I do it? Daddy, why can't I do it? Abba, why can't I do this or that or the other? And sometimes we might acquiesce to our children. You are miseducating. It's not about what everyone else is doing. For them to be Bnai Yisrael. But even more importantly, you ought to be doing what you're trying to teach them to do. Amen. And not talking to them about what they ought to do. But what are you living? What are we living? As mothers and fathers, as grandmothers and grandfathers, what are we living, and what example are we giving to our children? So if they see that we don't stand firm, why should they? The Sabbath doesn't mean anything to you. Why should it mean anything to me? We don't even set aside that sacredness of the time by lighting Sabbath candles. Just to teach them that we're entering into a different space, into a different time. A time that the Eternal has called holy, but you have to make it sacred. You have to demonstrate the sacredness of the Shabbat to your children. I don't want you to sit being on morbid. The Shabbat is not a time to be morbid, it is a time of joy. To understand it should be a family time. For all those other times that the family is in 18 different directions. Let's make the Shabbat that special time. So if you don't eat dinner together any other day, as the Shabbat is coming in, make senior proms. You know, some folks want to go to everything and they want to go to prom with other people at their schools. But it's that special time. And it is special. A special occasion in your life. Mine was. And in the specialness of that time, I tried to look my best for it. I did my absolute best to look good. I may have not looked good to you, but I was trying to look good to me. And hoping that the day I was taken to the prom would appreciate that I was at least trying to look decent, to take her and to be with her on this very special time in our lives. There is no more special time than the Shabbat. And if you can make time to keep the Shabbat at home, you need to do it. You need to step it up from being so lackadaisical. They know it's a Shabbat. But it won't mean anything to them if we don't show them that it is special to us. Our children are to be taught. That is the primary responsibility of any parent, to teach them. The rabbis teach us that every man, if he can't swim, has to teach or send his son someplace where they can learn to swim. Because swimming can save their life. Oh, I can't swim, but I can't teach you how to swim. But I can send you somewhere where you can learn that life-saving measure for yourself. Because one day you may have to apply it. So that's an obligation. The school system's responsibility is not the totality of the education of our children. Because most of what is really going to embolden them as Jews, as Israelites, they're not going to get in school. They have to get it at home. It must start at home. If it doesn't start at home, this fall, we're going to reinstitute again the religious school for our children. Maybe they don't need it. Maybe all of your children know everything they need to know. Maybe they have the book Hebrew for Dummies. This Way of Life for Dummies. But we as a community have an obligation to see to it that these children are learning some basic Hebrew so that they can begin to hold mental conversations. We should all be better Hebrew speakers. I've heard people say, well, I've been an Israelite for 40 years. I've been an Israelite for 50 years. I've been an Israelite for 30 years. I've been an Israelite for 20 years. And if you say anything more than Shalom, that's right. Like, the what? Must bake. You gotta make the cake yourself. I'm serious. I'm saying it in a manner in the hopes that it will be able to penetrate you and that you'll be able to receive it. And in so receiving, that you will then begin to obligate yourself to doing it. I would be an absolute failure if we don't have at least 2 generations prepared to go forward as leaders in this community, as leaders of people, with understanding of God's Torah, convicted, fully committed, devoted talking about a nation, and we have to be a community before you can be a nation. And you got to be a family before you can be a community. Because the family is the basis upon which all of it is built. Everything starts with family. That's why it's so important. It was so important that God, the eternal, the everlasting one, walked Eve out to Adam for the marriage ceremony. Because no bride should ever walk down the aisle by herself and not be given away. So the eternal one escorted Hava to the Kuba so that Adam could receive. We are not to do after other people have done it. Noah, get this with me. 12, go to chapter 12. And let's read the 8th verse together, please. 12 and 8 on page 801. What does Moses tell these people? Together, please. Ye shall not do after all that we do here this day. Every man whatsoever is right in his own life. You can't have a community like that. You can't have a family like that. Well, you do what you want to do, I'm going to do what I want to do. Husband is not obliged to tell his wife where he's at. But yet she can't go around the corner without him. Where you at? That's a two-way street. That's a two-way street. You ain't my mom. What? You ain't up there? So we have to understand that there was this time that the Israelites did what they thought was right. Now Moses is saying as you go into this place and you're becoming a collective community, you can't live in community like that. There has to be order. And where there is no order, disorder will reign. And living in community can't mean that I have to impose what I like. Well, you know what? I never will forget. Because it's to this day, you have Israelites who don't eat a chicken and eggs. Because there was a teacher who taught them. And nothing from the chicken. He taught that. And people have taught that for many generations. Never asking him the question, why? And if they had, you know what he would have answered? What was the answer ever? Because I don't like chicken. I don't like chicken. I'm sorry. If the community say, oh, you got to go back to Genesis and everybody got to eat like this. Where's that in the Torah? I love people who are vegetarian, don't eat red meat, only eat chicken. But now let's stay within the context of the whole Torah. Not the part that you like. And now you want to see everybody doing what you like or what I like. That's not the way it works. It's not the way it works. Right. So please, let us begin moving with a greater sense of self-respect, of self-esteem. Because if we don't esteem ourselves and our loved ones, who else is going to esteem them? And that starts with the respect that we give to everyone. To everyone. Even when that person doesn't respect themselves. You have to help them learn what self-respect means. I said, brother, that's not, if you're not respecting her, you're not respecting yourself. Maybe some men don't know that. Maybe some men think that they can talk to women any kind of way. And, you know, and they're going to get their respect. I'm sorry, no. You're only going to get what you give. You have to be respectful to gain respect and admiration of people. Not just any kind of way, treat people any kind of way, and never have the capacity to apologize sincerely to that individual. That's respecting everyone, even your children. Because I believe that I know I have done wrong to them. And I had to apologize. I had to ask for their forgiveness. I can't be so big that Abba can never be wrong. All you do is teaching your son or your daughter that nobody can ever correct me. Because if Abba can't be wrong, and I know you're wrong, how in the world can anybody else call me wrong? Humility. It's not a drink that you drink to become humble. It's an attitude that we have to demonstrate. And it moves in us. When we do what we read last week, when we circumcise the foreskin of our heart. So if the foreskin of the heart is not going to be circumcised, then it goes absolutely nowhere. 13th chapter says, all of this word which I command you, that shall ye observe to do, thou shalt not add thereto, nor diminish from in the midst of thee a prophet or a dreamer of dreams, and he give thee a sign or one. And the sign or one come to pass, whereof he spoke unto thee, saying, let us go after other gods, which thou hast not known, and let us serve them. Thou shalt not hearken unto the words of that prophet, or unto that dreamer of dreams, for the Lord your God putteth you to proof, to know whether ye do love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul. After the Lord your God shall ye walk, and him shall ye fear, I like to say, hold in reverence, and his commandments shall you keep. Unto his voice shall you hearken, and him shall you serve, and unto him shall ye cleave. And I don't even have to go into the next verse. We don't have the authority to destroy anybody, but you do have the authority to walk away from them. Other faith communities are so built that when one has a dream or vision, and people see it, oh, that had to come from God. There are other faith communities that gets guy can take and slap with a handkerchief. Yes. People start rolling over the floor. You can turn water to ginger ale. You can be able to cook grits without any fire. But that does not sway a child of Israel. We're not swayed by magic acts. And if magic sways you, then I hasten to say that you need to recalibrate your understanding of what it means to be an Israelite. Because we're not drawn by deviation. Ooh, I read stars. I did too. Let your kid. All I saw was stars. For about 2 or 3 minutes. So we don't follow people because they've had a vision or God told them something, particularly if he tells them something outside the Torah. Totally outside the Torah. Sorry. I heard this woman say in her congregation in her church that don't ever question the pastor. Well, if you don't question me, something's wrong with you. If you can't be questioned, if no one can come to you, well, I got 3 degrees, so what? So do the thermometers, and you know what we doing there? Unarmed. To take our temperature. Degrees are good. Education is absolutely wonderful. But the brightest person in the world got that education, you ask him questions. And the individual that taught him or her, that teacher enjoyed the questions because sometimes it made the teacher study more. To get more, to give more. And never try to give what you don't have. I mean, don't make stuff up. Because when you teach it wrong, people going to understand it wrong, and they're going to think it's right. And one day somebody's going to sit them down and say, you've been taught absolutely, unequivocally wrong. And that's not right. So let us conclude with this, my brothers and sisters. Chapter 14, verse 1. On page 808. Together, please. Ye are the children of the Lord your God.
Ye shall not cut yourselves, nor make bondholders between the body or the dead.
For thou art a
Holy people
unto and the Lord
has chosen thee to be his own treasure.
out of all the people that are on the face of the earth. So you don't need to chase anybody to be like anybody else. You are God's chosen people. Doesn't mean better than anybody. Never ever think that chosenness means better than. Because we are not better than any other human being. But we are to be an example in living in this way of life for other people. That's how we teach them. That's how we lift them up. That's how we convert their heart. That's how we change their understanding. That's how we cause them to cleave to the skirts of your garment. That's how the word